الله خلاقي ومهجة مهجتي حب فدته النفس كل فدائي
ہے میرا خالق خدا وہ جان من وہ جان فضا وہ میرا محبوب ہے اس پر میرا سب کچھ فدا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to yet another episode of our program Asma'ullahi al-Husna, the beautiful attributes of Allah the Almighty. As usual, in this program we pick one or two of the attributes of Allah the Almighty, discuss them exhaustively and find examples or ways of, as Muslims, trying to attain and manifest these attributes in our daily lives. In today's program, we're discussing two of those attributes, or three, so I say, Jalali wal Ikram and Azim. And in the studio to help me discuss this, I have two gentlemen, and from my immediate right, Ustaz Ibrahim Abba, and next to him, Ustaz Abu Bakar Kasama. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. If I may start with you, Ustaz Ibrahim, and we start with definitions. As usual, let's talk about what the name or the attribute or the attributes Zal Jalali wal Ikram mean.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. These are two separate attributes, and their root meaning also is separate as well. Al-Jalil or Dhul Jalal, if you put the Dhu, it only means possessor, but the meaning there is Al-Jalal, and that is taken from the Arabic root Jalla. And when you put it in the noun form, Jalalun, or you say Jalalatun, it has different kind of meanings, but if it is applied to a thing, it may mean that the thing became great, that is in size. But if it is applied to a person, it may mean the person has possessed in himself or herself a kind of greatness that doesn't just has to do with size. Maybe you are praising the person for his or her intellect or sharp in mind, and or their eminence in position or whatsoever. But it can also apply to people when they attain old age. If you say of a people that they are qawmun jilla, it means they have either attained old age, or they are eminence, or they have attained maturity with their old age. But we know that this is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recorded in several verses of the Holy Quran, and these two goes together, Zul Jalal and Wal Ikram. These two always goes together. But in one of the verses of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. He said everything else would finish, it will come back to nothing, except the face of thy Lord, the Lord of majesty and honor, will remain. But if you look at the other word, that is wal Ikram, the Ikram, that is the superlative form that is being used. Sometimes you have places where God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will use Al-Karim, and that is the most honorable. But if he used Al-Ikram, that is the superlative form of Karim. This is also taken from an Arabic root, Kaf, Ra, and Mim, that is Karuma. For example, if you say in Arabic, Karramtu alayhi, it means I exceeded him in honor or in eminence. But we know that there is also another bab of this, and that is what we call karrama. And that from that is where we take the word al-ikram. So we have these two babs where you can take this name of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, either al-karim or al-ikram. It all has the same meaning almost, but you have one that is more superlative than the other.
Jazakumullah. Thank you very much, Ustaz. Ustaz Walker, if you talk about this particular attributes, these two attributes, in terms of their similarities, Ustaz has really made some examples, but can you expand on that and indeed other attributes of Allah that you can think
Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, Alhamdulillah, as he just elaborated on the name, actually all these attributes of Allah, Allah is trying to show us how, or to make to understand, for us to know who is Allah, the Creator, because His attributes are 99. So each and every attribute you see, you can understand how, because He is the possessor of all these things. Because, you know, He is beyond our imagination. We cannot understand who is Allah. But like with these two wording, the possessor, because He possesses something that we as human, because He is the one who created us. He wants us to know Him. So He have brought all these things for us to know through the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So to know these things, as he said, because he entered into something like the grammatical things, because in Arabic language. So we have to understand it. That's why Ustaz was breaking things down for us to understand as a layman, so that you'll know where these things start from. Yeah.
Jazakumullah, thank you so much. And in terms of understanding, and trying to manifest this attribute, because it is part of worship, right? Yes. So you understand Allah first, and then you worship Him. Yeah. And in that, Ustaz, we're talking about here, prayers. How do we worship Allah, especially pray to Him to help us attain or manifest these beautiful attributes of Allah the Almighty?
Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Ustaz was saying, has created all these sifats for Himself. But the benefactors are us. We are the ones who benefit from these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we want to use Dhul Jalal or Al-Ikram in our prayers, there is a hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he said, Alizu bidhul Jalali wal Ikram. He said, be content with calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His names, Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. It is recorded in another hadith where he heard a Sahaba who was praying. He used a lot of other names, including Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. And then he told the Sahabas who were around, addressing that man, he said, continue praying, continue asking, because you have used the attribute of God by which everything you ask, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you that. Now when we say Dhul Jalal, the possessor of majesty and bounty, wal Ikram, and the majestic God, the Al-Jalil, if we want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of this name, then we can do so. But with this comes generosity. If you ask of God to give you power, then you have to remember that that power should be used wisely. You are responsible with whatever comes with that power or that authority. It's the same way when you ask of God, the Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, to bestow you a part of His Jalal, a part of His eminence, and a part of His generosity, then you should as a person also understand that that also comes with responsibility. You have to be bountiful like the God you are asking Himself, so that whatever that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it also goes down to other people who needs it. It could be a material thing, it could be any other thing, it could be counseling even other people. It all has to come, it all stems from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then to His prophets, and then to the rest of mankind.
Jazakumullah, thank you so much. Ustaz, I see you nodding in agreement. You want to add something on that?
Yes, I wanted to add something. Yeah. You see, actually, all these attributes, because there is a place in the Holy Quran, in Surah Isra or Surah Bani Israel, chapter 17. He said, call Allah upon these names. These are the 99 names. It's just like praising someone. And when we are praying, you have to, even like as human beings, if I heard you, then I started praising you, you will forget about what I said before, earlier. So it's the same thing. And the one who created us, though it will not even harm him or it will not benefit, but like he wants us to be doing these things because it will show our gratitude to him. And we have to be grateful to him because that's what he told us. If you are grateful to me, I'll increase you. So he announced that to us. So by all means, we have to do, and if we know all these names, it will be for our benefit. And the other thing, like Allahumma, oh my Allah, Anta Salam, you are peace. Wa minka salam, and peace comes from you. All these things are his attributes. Look at the word again. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram. You are the possessor of, the bounty and the majesty and the bounty. So all these things shows us that he is the one. Salam is there because it starts from peace, because you cannot attain anything without peace and tranquility. All these things we have to know. So it's a good benefit for us if we know the attributes of Allah. Yeah.
Jazakumullah very much, Ustaz. And I think in line of benefits, yes. I mean, as Muslims, and especially in this generation, I think we can speak to the fact that there's a lot of short of generosity in this world. So, this attribute of Allah, and indeed many other attributes of Allah, it's important to continue to pray to Allah to enable us to attain this or to benefit from Allah's generosity, but also be able to manifest this in our daily lives. Ustaz, if I come back to you on the issue of, reference from the Holy Quran in terms of these two attributes, can you share some verses? You've mentioned earlier a few, but can you give us a bit more?
Yes, before I come to those verses, the words we are talking about, that is Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, if you are using it in prayer, let's say for example, you stand in prayer and you have it in your mind that God, you are standing in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all his jalal. That should instill in you that kind of, first of all, respect and the fear to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also his other name, Al-Ikram, generosity, that should instill in you a kind of hope that the being you are standing in front of, the being you are talking to, and the being you are asking from, doesn't lack anything. So it is up to you to ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatever you want to. But the jalal of God should instill in you that kind of fear and that hope. That's what the Holy Quran tells us. If you are praying to God, it should be between hope and fear. So these two attributes instill in the person these two things.
Creates a sort of a balancing effect, exactly, so to speak, enables you to be as a believer focused and more in serving your God, but at the same time trying to manifest those attributes as well.
Yeah, when we go to the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this attribute in different verses. I've quoted the first verse before. In the second verse, chapter 55, verse 79, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Tabaraka asmu rabbika dhil jalali wal ikram. Blessed is the name of thy Lord, Master of glory and honor. And we always say here that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, it always comes back to us. If he tells us that he is good, that goodness should be replicated in us. Now, the same word, Kareem, or where that same word is taken from, Ikram, where it is taken from, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran that وَقَدَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ, thy Lord has commanded, worship none but him. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and show kindness to parents. He said, إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرُ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. He said, if one of them or both of them attain old age with thee, never say unto them a word expressing of disgust or reproach them, but وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. He said, but address them with excellent speech. The word used here is taken from the same root of the word al-Ikram. So it is the word, an honorable word. When you speak with your parents, you speak to them with that nobility, you speak to them with kindness, you speak to them in the same manner like the Holy Quran reminded us. We should pray for them, telling God to have mercy on them as they did upon us when we were very young. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in another verse, and this is also to show the generosity that the Sahabas of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for each other, and God rewarded them for those generosity. He said in this verse, addressing the Muhajir and the Ansar. The Muhajir were the immigrants from Mecca. Those people left everything to migrate to Medina. Some of them did not go with anything. They just had the clothes they were wearing. They left their family, their friends, their possession, everything at home. When they went to Medina, those people received them and gave them everything that they lacked. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised this generosity, and He said He's going to reward them. The verse says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آوَوا وَنَصَرُوا أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ حَقًّا لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَرِزْقٌ كَرِيمٌ. He said, and those who have believed and left their homes and strive for the cause of Allah, and those who have given them shelter and help, these indeed are true believers. For them is forgiveness and an honorable provision. Now we can say the honorable provision, the best part of it comes on the day of judgment. But we have seen even the provision God gave them, even in their own lifetime. Let's take, for example, in the Battle of Ditch. When the Sahabas were digging the ditch around a part of Medina, they came across a rock that some of them went to the Prophet ﷺ. They said, we came across a rock which knows no breaking. He said, okay, let's go. You see, that day or those days, they were starving. Both the Ansar and the Muhajirs were starving. It is recorded that the Prophet ﷺ was that day tying 2 stones on his stomach, to prevent him from feeling the pangs of hunger. When the Prophet ﷺ came, it is recorded that he took an axe, he struck that stone once, and he said, Allahu Akbar. And he made a prophecy that God has given him the keys of other kingdoms. Let's say, for example, in our own time, let's say, for example, America or Russia. You sit somewhere else in the desert of Arabia telling people, God has given me the keys of Arabia, of America or Russia. When that prophecy was made, the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabas, look at the condition in which they were. But you see the fulfillment. The keys of the Khosrows were given to him. Persia, Syria, every kingdom was given to the Sahabas of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is part of the rizq al-karim that God promised them. But like I said, the best part of that always comes in the hereafter.
Thank you so much, Ustaz, for that wonderful elaboration. If we move to the next attribute that we're talking about today, Al-Azim, can you describe briefly what that attribute means?
Okay. Actually, Al-Azim means great. So, to understand the greatness, you have to connect it with other attributes. Allah is not only great, but there are similarities. Azim and Akbar. Akbar too is great, but like when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His is nowhere to be seen or nowhere to be found or to be compared to. Because that's why we say Subhana Rabbi al-Azim when we are praying. Because holy is He, the great. So you can feel that wording. You can see, because that's why He told us. He told the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ta'arifuni qabla an ta'budu." Know me before you worship me. If you don't know me, you will not be able to worship me. So that's why I said it's very important to know the attributes of Allah. Each and every attributes. each and every name and its meaning, so that it will help us. Like as Ustaz said, when you are praying, you are uttering these things. When you know it, you will see the impact in you. You will feel it. And even praying, someone looking at you will know that, oh, this guy is feeling something. Those are the days when the companions are praying. Some of them, you will see in the narrations. The way their heart will be beating, because they know what they are saying and what they are doing. So if we know, it will be the best for us. And Ustaz narrated one verse. He said his name is the blessed. All these attributes of Allah, you can see blessing in them. If only we know them and we apply to where we have to apply them. So though if you see it, you will see some similarities, but they are not the same. Each and every attribute have a role to play, and is playing a different role. Just like the body. What the hand can do, the eye cannot do it. So Allah is the possessor of everything. Indeed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Buba. If we still talk about definitions, Al-Azim could mean large, great, in terms of estimation, dignity. Are we talking about physical or spiritual in terms of greatness? Can you elaborate a bit more on that before we talk about similarities?
If you talk about the word Azim, it could mean just great in size. But if you talk about the word, if you talk about the word Al-Azim, it could mean great in stature. Like, for example, the word Kabir and Azim, that's where the difference is. If you say, for example, an author has written a book that is Kabir, that is big, it could only mean that the book is big just in size. Yeah? But if you say the word, the book is Azim, is great, you are perhaps praising the context of the book, what is written in that book, the ideas that are in the book. You are perhaps praising those ideas and not the actual text, the physical size of the book. So this is the difference between the Kabir and the Azim. But I think I would like to go back to one of those attributes, Karim. That is what we call honor. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows honor on anyone, that is sure to attract jealousy. And if you look at the verses of the Holy Quran, it tells us that it is the same thing that happened when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. We say Adam, we are the children of Adam. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed us. When Allah created Adam, alayhi salatu wasalam, Iblis saw that this person has been honored more than him. And look at what he said in the Holy Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the angels, he said, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. When they were asked to submit to Adam, they all did except Iblis. And there was one disease that he has, and that is what we call takabbur. We have talked about that, the Al-Kabir. Iblis had that disease of being proud of himself. He said, قَالَ أَأَسْجُدُ لِمَنْ خَلَقْتَ تِينًا. He asked God. This is always what happens with people. If God bestows honor on you, a position, a prestige, those who are jealous, they will start questioning. Even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, this is the same thing that happened. When he said, God sent me, the Arabs said, I think the Quran should have been sent to someone else, great, in among these two towns, that is Mecca or Taif. Someone who is great in stature, who is affluent. But when Iblis said that, he added something, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quoted it. He said, قَالَ أَرَأَيْتَكَ هَذَا الَّذِي كَرَّمْتَ عَلَيَّ لَإِنْ أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ لَأَحْتَنِكَنَّ ذُرِّيَّتَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. He said, and he said, what do you think? He was talking to God. What do you think? He said, you see, can this one you has honored above me be my superior? And he added, if you grant me respite until the day of resurrection, I will most surely bring his descendants under my sway, except a few. And the rest of that goes, if you go back to the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, he did not only bestow honor on Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, but even on his children. Yeah. He said in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. You know, every descendant of Adam is having that honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you are sure to attract the satanic influences, you are sure to attract Iblis influences, and those influences are there to take that honor from you. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in another verse of the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. He said, surely we have created man in the best make. Yeah. But if he is not careful and then he goes along the influences of Satan or Iblis, then he is going to be ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Then if he works iniquity, we reject him as the lowest of the low. So always the bestower of eminence, the bestower of generosity, when that comes on you, even if it is a wealth, you are sure to attract other people who are jealous of you because of that wealth, and they will always seek to bring you down because of that honor you are living in.
Indeed. Jazakumullah, thank you very much. And just to connect to what you were saying in terms of pride, you know, the promised Messiah, the Imam of the age, has written in one of his books, he's reported to have written that he said, you should be kind and merciful to humanity, you know, for all Allah's creatures. You know, he talks about do not oppress anybody with your tongue, do not oppress them with your hand, or in any other way. You know, and talks about, you know, we should always work for the good of mankind and never unduly assert ourselves with pride over others, especially for those who are placed under us. And this is all, you know, part of, you know, manifesting the attribute of Allah the Almighty and trying to attain nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear viewers, that's all we had time for in this episode. Thank you so much for your company. Until we come your way again, let me thank my guests for this show, and we'll see you again in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
الله خلاقي ومهجة مهجتي حب فدته النفس كل فدائي
ہے میرا خالق خدا وہ جان من وہ جان فضا وہ میرا محبوب ہے اس پر میرا سب کچھ فدا یا من احاط الخلق بالآلاء نثني عليك وليس حول ثنائي